You won't believe what the police discovered under this house. Have you ever wondered what police find when they're not issuing speeding tickets? Sometimes it's quite creepy. These discoveries will have you double-checking your locks. From cleverly disguised hidden cameras to dolls that threaten public safety, here are 20 disturbingly creepy things found by police. Number 20. A creepy figure. In 2023, locals in California had quite a scary morning when they saw an eerie figure dressed as the famous Ghostface. Ghostface is one of the most iconic figures in horror cinema, instantly recognizable by the white mask with hollow eyes and a gaping, distorted mouth. The eerie figure was found standing near Sonoma Plaza at 1st Street East and East Napa Street. Locals, concerned about the sinister presence, quickly called the police, only to find out later that the spooky figure wasn't a transgressor or a person trying to pull off something heinous. Rather, it was all part of a franchise's publicity stunt for the latest installment of the movie series. The stunt was meant to drum up excitement for the upcoming film, but it ended up causing quite a stir. People reported seeing the masked figure lurking in various locations around town, and the calls to the police began pouring in. Some even reported feeling genuinely frightened. Horror fans might recall similar tactics used in the past, where actors dressed as characters from horror movies have been used to generate media attention. However, this particular stunt might have gone a bit too far, as the fear it generated led to an unexpected number of emergency calls. Number 19. A doll threatening the public. I guess the police also have authority over inanimate objects, especially if said object is human-like in appearance. In 2023, Mexican police in the city of Monclova, Coahuila, arrested not just a man but also his unusual accomplice, a life-sized Chucky doll. You're probably already familiar with this doll, famous for starring in the 1988 horror movie. A man identified as Carlos N. was seen using this creepy doll to terrify passersby and demand money from them while wielding a large knife. Needless to say, multiple complaints about the man were received by the police. Both the man and the doll were promptly arrested, handcuffed, and taken to the local police station. You would think that only Carlos would be taken into custody, but the police officers also made the Chucky doll pose for a mugshot, holding it up by its bright orange hair to ensure the photo was properly taken. Of course, the bizarre mugshots quickly went viral, and while many found it amusing, others criticized the police for not taking their duty seriously. Carlos N. was released shortly after, but the whereabouts of the Chucky doll remain a mystery. Some speculate it might still be in police custody, while others think it could be collecting dust in an evidence room. Number 18. Creepy dolls on Michael Jackson's ranch. Michael Jackson, often hailed as the king of pop, experienced a level of fame that few others have ever reached. However, it came with a price. Not only was his life plagued with difficulties, but any wrongdoing he committed was also put in the spotlight. Throughout his life, Michael faced numerous health challenges, both physical and psychological. Additionally, he also faced numerous allegations. One of the most challenging periods in Michael's life came with the legal battles that began in the early 1990s. He faced multiple accusations of crimes involving children. Although he was acquitted of all charges in a highly publicized trial in 2005, the damage to his reputation lasts to this day. One of Jackson's legacies is the Sycamore Valley Ranch, or the Neverland Ranch. From 1988 to 2005, it was the home and private amusement park of Michael Jackson. It spanned 2,700 acres and was located about 8 miles north of the town of Santa Ynez. In November 2003, Jackson's residence was investigated by the police. That's when they discovered rather alarming figures, life-size child mannequins. These mannequins were found scattered across various rooms, including Jackson's bedroom and arcade. The mannequins were small and dressed in children's clothing, which made them even creepier. The discovery of these dolls, alongside other peculiar items like statues of fairy children and a painting of Jackson as the Pied Piper, further fueled the controversy surrounding the pop icon. It's these discoveries that further tainted the image of the pop icon to the public. Number 17. Possible face of Jack the Ripper. Jack the Ripper, a name that gripped 19th century London's Whitechapel district with fear. While this man inspired countless fictional works, we know little about the person behind this moniker. It was said that Jack the Ripper claimed the lives of several women in Victorian London between August and November of 1888, all of whom were slain with surgical precision. The crimes were carried out in seemingly impossible situations as well. No matter how thorough the investigations were, not a single clue about Jack the Ripper's identity was ever found, much to the displeasure of Scotland Yard. Over the years, dozens of theories have been proposed, with suspects ranging from local butchers and doctors to members of the royal family. Some even speculate that the Ripper could have been a woman, an idea that has gained some traction in recent years. However, none of these theories have been definitively proven, leaving the identity of Jack the Ripper as one of the greatest unsolved mysteries in history. One recent discovery might allegedly reveal Jack the Ripper's identity: a wooden cane that once belonged to Scotland Yard officer and detective Frederick Aberline. Aberline, who became obsessed with the case, had the face of a man believed to be Jack the Ripper carved into the cane's handle. For decades, this eerie artifact was stored away and was eventually thought lost when the police college in Bramshill, Hampshire, where it was housed, closed in 2015. The cane was recently rediscovered in an archive at the College of Policing's headquarters in Wrighton, West Midlands. While we may never know the true identity of Jack the Ripper, the discovery of this walking stick brings us closer to answering other unanswered questions about the case. Number 16. Disguised hidden camera. A hidden camera outside your home is definitely one of the most chilling things a homeowner can find. That's exactly what police officers discovered in homes around the United States just recently. One particular case involves a homeowner living in Scarsdale, New York. What he found was a camouflaged camera covered in fake leaves, blending into the bushes outside his home. Fortunately, he discovered the camera while doing routine yard work. If he hadn't, the camera would have spied on his family for days or even weeks. The camera, strategically placed to monitor the home, was likely intended to help burglars determine the best time to break in. This isn't an isolated incident. Similar cases have been reported across the country, with organized groups using these devices to stake out homes before committing crimes. The Scarsdale Police Department has responded to this threat by increasing patrols and urging homeowners to stay vigilant. They recommend regular checks of your property for any suspicious devices and to be on the lookout for unfamiliar objects in your landscaping that could be hiding surveillance equipment. Unfortunately, as technology becomes more advanced and small spy cameras become easier to buy, these incidents might increase. Stay safe out there, folks, and remember to lock your doors. Number 15. 71-year-old egg thief. It's astounding just what things people can obsess over. Police officers in Norfolk, England, caught 71-year-old Daniel Lingham, and you won't believe what they discovered in his possession. Eggs. Not just any eggs, but those that belong to wild birds. Lingham had previously served time for similar offenses, but he was once again found guilty of possessing nearly 3,000 illegally collected wild bird eggs in his home. His collection included eggs from rare and protected species, and his activities caused significant harm to local wildlife populations. Lingham's obsession with collecting bird eggs dates back decades, and despite two previous prison sentences, one in 2005 and another in 2018, his compulsion continued unabated. This time, however, the legal system took a different approach. Instead of sending Lingham back to prison, the court handed down a suspended jail term. Lingham's crime is rooted in his mental or psychological well-being. Alongside the suspended sentence, Lingham was ordered to undergo a 12-month mental health treatment program aimed at addressing the compulsions that have driven his behavior for so long. Number 14. Police track down culprit through hot pot. Now here's a rather bizarre discovery. What's creepy about this is how insane it sounds. A Chinese police officer managed to apprehend a fugitive named Guo Bing in Jiangsu province by his scent, specifically, the scent of his dinner. Guo, who had been evading authorities for several months, was finally caught when the police traced the aroma of a hot pot dish to his hideout. Thanks to the strong aroma of the hot pot dish, the fugitive, wanted for cases of fraud and extortion, was finally put behind bars. Number 13. A giant metal cylinder. In July 2012, a mysterious giant metal cylinder washed ashore on Greenhead Beach in Western Australia, baffling local authorities. The copper-colored object looked quite unusual, raising initial concerns about it being hazardous. Authorities cordoned off the area and warned the public to stay away. However, the truth soon surfaced. The Australian Space Agency got involved, collaborating with international counterparts to determine if the object could be from a rocket launch vehicle, possibly from India's Polar Satellite Launch Vehicle. In the end, their investigation confirmed that the cylinder was indeed space debris. Experts speculated that a marine weather event could have dislodged the object, which likely fell into the ocean during a rocket launch years earlier. With that, the mystery of this creepy discovery was put to an end. Number 12. You got the wrong guy, officer. Now, these police officers probably felt like they were suddenly involved in a comedy sketch when a driver in Springfield, Colorado, did something quite unexpected just to avoid a DUI. To avoid getting into hot water with the authorities, the driver attempted to switch places with his dog. Yes, you heard that right, his dog. Initially, the driver was pulled over for speeding. As the officer approached the vehicle, he noticed something unusual. The driver was frantically maneuvering inside the car. It quickly became clear that the man was trying to swap seats with his four-legged companion in a bizarre effort to avoid being identified as the one behind the wheel. Seriously, what was he thinking? To the officer's disbelief, the man exited the car from the passenger side, leaving the dog in the driver's seat as if to suggest that the canine had been in control all along. Needless to say, the ruse didn't work. The dog was then given to an acquaintance of the driver, while the man was taken to jail. Number 11. A desperate fugitive. How far would you go to escape conviction? For a man from China's Hunan province named Lu Mafu, he would go as far as staying in a remote mountain cave for 14 long years. Now, what exactly did he do? Back in 2009, Lu, his brother-in-law, and another accomplice carried out a robbery in Nanyang City, a crime that yielded little more than a meal and some fireworks. They successfully robbed a gas station for just 156 yuan, or about $23. Lu's accomplices were apprehended, but he escaped into the wilderness. In a cave located about 6 miles from the nearest village, he survived by hunting, scavenging, and occasionally stealing food from his former village. Despite the isolation, Lu's fear of being caught kept him away from his family. The psychological toll of his self-imposed exile eventually became too much, leading Lu to surrender to authorities earlier this year. Though he had avoided capture for so long, Lu now faces a possible prison sentence of 3 to 10 years. If he had faced his charges 14 years ago, he probably would have received much lighter and more favorable charges. Number 10. A bog body. An old body, but still a dead body. When police officers in Northern Ireland received a report from Ballygolly, County Londonderry, in October 2023 about a human skeleton, they thought they were at the center of a murder case. At first, they weren't sure what to expect, whether these were the remains of a recent tragedy or something else entirely. The site was quickly cordoned off, and forensic experts began their meticulous work. As they dug deeper, literally and figuratively, they realized they weren't dealing with an ordinary crime. What they found was indeed the body of a person, one who lived over 2 millennia ago. They had found a bog body, a human cadaver that had been naturally mummified in a peat bog. The remains were those of a teenage boy, estimated to have been between 13 and 17 years old when he died over 2,000 years ago, around 500 BCE. The bog's unique conditions, cold, acidic and oxygen poor, had essentially mummified the body, preserving skin, fingernails, toenails, and even what might be a kidney. In fact, the boy's body was so well preserved that officers were initially fooled into thinking they had found the body of a recent crime victim. To this day, we are still trying to discover the cause of his death and what kind of life he lived in the past. Number 9. A lioness on the loose. In July 2023, locals in Berlin had a horrifying experience when a beast was accidentally freed near their residence. It all began late one night when a resident of Kleinmachnow, a town just outside Berlin, spotted what appeared to be a large predatory animal chasing a wild boar. The resident captured the encounter on video, which quickly led to widespread concern and a significant police response. Authorities took the sighting seriously, deploying more than 30 patrol cars, helicopters, drones, and even infrared cameras to locate the animal. The search focused on the wooded areas surrounding Kleinmachnow, Teltow, and Stonsdorf and involved veterinarians working through the night to track down the suspected lioness. The urgency of the situation led police to issue warnings across multiple platforms, advising residents to stay indoors and keep their pets safe. What made the situation even more puzzling was that neither zoos nor circuses in the area reported any missing big cats. Experts speculated that if the animal was indeed a lioness, it might have come from a private enclosure, although the exact source remains unknown to this day. The situation was further complicated by the fact that keeping big cats is illegal in Berlin, though it is possible in neighboring Brandenburg under strict regulations. By the following day, after a thorough investigation and the deployment of massive resources, authorities began to doubt the initial assessment. It was later suggested that the animal might have been a wild boar, not a lioness. What exactly was this beast? A lioness, a wild boar, or something else? Perhaps it's something we have yet to learn more about. Let me know what you think in the comments. Number 8. Dogs in grave danger. Now here's both a scary and heartwarming experience. In 2023, 2 dogs were rescued from an underground tunnel in Liberty, New York, after one barked continuously for 2 hours, refusing to leave the other behind. The Village of Liberty Police Department responded to reports of a dog barking persistently near Edgar Street. After hearing the dogs barking, they followed the sound and found the 2 dogs trapped about 40 feet inside a water-filled tunnel. The rescue operation was no small feat due to the unstable roof of the tunnel. Officers had to navigate a challenging route, including climbing through a hole in a chain-link fence and sliding down a 7-foot concrete wall. One of the dogs was found partially submerged in water, clinging to a ledge and unable to free itself. The other dog stayed close by, barking incessantly and even acting protectively when rescuers approached. With the help of local resident Tom Lewis, the officers were able to safely lift both dogs out of the tunnel. Ultimately, the dogs were in good health and were transferred to the care of animal control, who worked to locate their owner. Number 7. A possible heist avoided. You would think that this only happens in action movies, and yet it happened in real life. FBI agents in Pembroke Pines, Florida, investigated a potential bank heist after discovering a 50-yard underground tunnel leading toward a Chase bank. Now, how they discovered this tunnel is quite unbelievable. It all began when local public works employees reported a sinkhole on a road near the bank's drive-through ATMs. Upon closer inspection, police officers realized that the sinkhole was actually the entrance to a narrow man-made tunnel. The tunnel appeared to have started in a wooded area nearby and was dug with pickaxes and rudimentary tools to avoid detection. The entire tunnel was like a passageway to the bank's ATM. The tunnel itself was claustrophobically small, about 2 to 3 feet in diameter, and ran directly beneath a busy road, making its discovery even more alarming. Inside, investigators found an electric jackhammer, work boots, and an extension cord connected to a small generator. This indicates the tunnel was part of an elaborate plan that had been in the works for months. FBI Special Agent Mike Leverick, who leads the investigation, remarked that the whole setup was something you'd expect to see in movies, though even Hollywood might struggle to dream up a tunnel so tiny. An elaborate investigation immediately followed. Number 6. Jailed for 34 months for farting. In a severe yet bizarre case, a man named Matthew Hapgood found himself sentenced to 34 months in jail for farting in a police officer's face during his arrest. Yes, you heard that correctly. Hapgood, a 41-year-old from Oxfordshire, had been apprehended before for shoplifting items worth around 33 pounds. During the arrest, he decided to break wind in the officer's face, a move that, while certainly headline-grabbing, wasn't the primary reason for his lengthy sentence. With a record of 31 previous convictions for 83 offenses, the farting incident became the final straw, prompting police officers to put their foot down. Number 5. Expired ingredients have to go somewhere. You really can't be too careful with what you eat these days. In this creepy and terrifying case, 2 restaurant chefs were recently sentenced to prison for lacing thousands of dishes with antidiarrheal substances. But why? It was to mitigate the harmful effects of using expired ingredients. The chefs, identified only as Sha and Fu, worked at a hotel restaurant in Nantung City when they began adding gentamicin sulfate, a medication typically used to treat diarrhea, to various dishes, including braised fish, mapo chicken, and braised tendons. That's because they were knowingly using spoiled food as an ingredient. Luckily, their scheme was busted. Upon investigation, police found over 100 boxes of antidiarrheal substances in the restaurant's kitchen. It turned out that the chefs had been secretly dosing dishes with the medication, hoping to cover up the use of stale ingredients that could have otherwise led to food poisoning. As a result of their actions, both chefs received prison sentences, 2 years and 1 year and 6 months, respectively, and were fined 160,000 yuan, or approximately $22,000. Well, I fear trying out new restaurants now. This goes to show that being a police officer isn't the easiest job in the world. Number 4. A man who stole 730 pieces of undergarments. 730 pieces of women's clothing. That's what Japanese police officers discovered in the possession of a 56-year-old man, Tetsuo Urata. The investigation began when a 21-year-old college student reported her undergarments stolen from a laundromat. Following her complaint, the police were led to Urata, where they uncovered the massive haul. Urata confessed to the thefts, which he had committed over an extended period by targeting local laundromats. Well, that's creepy indeed. Number 3. A poor woman rotting from the waist down. Here's undoubtedly one of the creepiest things you can find as a police officer. A man, whom we'll call Rob, received a call about a foul odor coming from a lower unit in an apartment complex. When they conducted an investigation, Rob and his team found a rather unsettling sight. There, on the couch, was a woman sitting motionless, but there was something odd, something squirming around in her lower region. Now, the woman was very much alive, but due to neglect, her lower body had become infected with maggots, which were slowly eating her away. If she hadn't been discovered, she would have slowly decayed from the waist down and eventually succumbed to death without anyone knowing about her suffering. Number 2. A being from another dimension. Now here's a rather spine-chilling story. You see, police officers don't just deal with people. Sometimes, they're also called to deal with the unknown or the paranormal. This story is shared by a police officer whom we'll call John. He claimed that this was one of the most unforgettable calls he received in his years of service. It started quite normally. He received a call from a middle-aged woman, recently divorced, living alone. Her concerns involved hearing footsteps on the second floor of her house while she was downstairs in the kitchen. She claimed that she had no visitors, no children, and no reason for those sounds to be there. It's something that could happen to each and every one of us. Really, just the thought of it scares me. Going back to the story, when John arrived at the scene, the woman was already outside, visibly shaken up, with her neighbor trying to calm her down. John wasn't alone at the time. Other units arrived quickly, secured the area, and set up a perimeter. The plan was simple: announce their presence, enter, and clear the house with the woman's permission. 3 officers, including John, stacked up at the front door. The ground floor was cleared without incident, but as they approached the stairs, that's when they heard it: footsteps. Not frantic, not hurried. No, these were calm, deliberate steps, almost like someone was pacing. John announced their presence again, but there was no response, just the footsteps growing fainter, almost as if whatever was up there was slipping away. Well, that's definitely creepy. Most people would have run or turned back already, but John had a job to do. With his heart pounding a mile a minute, John cleared the stairs slowly. They moved through the hallway, clearing room after room, but there was nothing, no one, not even a hint of life. Not a critter, not even a shadow. Those footsteps, so distinct, so human, seemed to have come from nowhere. Now that's something that would definitely give me goosebumps. The other officers quickly joined the search, checking every possible hiding spot: closets, under beds, even appliances, but it was all empty. There was no sign that anyone was ever there. So what did John, the woman, and the other officers encounter? Who or what was making those noises? Eventually, they invited the woman back inside, reassuring her that the house was clear. They chalked it up to something mundane. Maybe it was the house settling, wood creaking, something unexplainable. But John claimed that deep down he wasn't convinced. In fact, he claimed that he stayed behind just to be sure, double-checking the windows, doors, and going over security measures with the woman until her friend arrived to stay the night with her. Props to John for being brave and thorough. Most people would have left and never looked back. Years later, John still can't shake the feeling that that night, he came into contact with something not of this world. Maybe something from another dimension, another reality, or something else entirely. I don't know about you guys, but if that had happened to me, I would have moved to another house, no questions asked. But I'm curious as to what you think really happened during that incident. A rat, a ghost, an intruder, or something else entirely? Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Now it's time for today's topic. Police find a tunnel under the house that leads to a ridiculous surprise. Secret hideouts, secret compartments, tunnels that lead somewhere else in the city. These all sound like something straight out of an action movie. Police officers, however, know that these are actually precautions taken by real fugitives. Police discovered this tunnel concealed with precision in a house in Mexico, cleverly hidden beneath a hot tub. If it weren't for a prior tip, they most likely wouldn't have discovered it. The astonishing part is that this tunnel was used by the notorious lawbreaker El Chapo. Now, who knows what other escape routes the offender had in his home? Number 1. Thieves dig a tunnel for a month. Oil is one of the most valuable resources in the world. Perhaps that's why these thieves endured a lot to obtain a little bit of oil. In 2023, a group of 8 thieves in South Korea pulled off an audacious plan to steal oil by renting an entire hotel and spending a month digging a tunnel to a nearby pipeline. The operation took place in Cheongju, North Chungcheong Province, where the thieves, led by a former employee of the Korea Daehan Oil Pipeline Corporation, meticulously planned their heist. The gang rented the hotel under the guise of a legitimate business, convincing the owner they were interested in acquiring the property. They then shut down the hotel and began their work in secret, using shovels and pickaxes to avoid drawing attention with loud machinery. Over the course of a month, they managed to dig a 33-foot-long tunnel. They also reached within 30 centimeters of the oil pipeline. However, their plans unraveled just before they reached the pipeline. The police, acting on a tip from the National Intelligence Service, searched the hotel and apprehended all 8 suspects before they could siphon off any oil. Now, imagine if they had just worked honestly throughout that 1 month. Do you know any other mind-boggling cop stories? Feel free to comment them down below. Also, check out our other cool stuff showing up on the screen right now, and I'll see you in the next video.